everyone, and welcome to Dede Talks, the Art of Specialty Lenses. We have two very special guests with us today, Dr. Lynette Johns and Dr. Jackson Lau. I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
I can kick it off. My name is Dr. Jackson Lau. I'm the Senior Manager of Professional Relations at Euclid Vision Corporation. I'm still a practicing optometrist out in the San Francisco Bay Area in a large group practice focusing on myopia. We have a corneal specialist, so we do a bit of specialty lenses with corneal diseases. And so I've been working with industry for Euclid for about 2.5 years now. After I think 7 or 8 years or so of working in practice full time, I think ultimately it was a nice change of pace for me to join industry. I was able to learn a lot of different skills in my short time here over the past 2 years or so. And one of the main reasons I decided to join a myopia management type company was the fact that I could have a much larger influence on not just my own patients, but worldwide. We have a big global presence, so I felt that I could have a bit more impact to the world. So that's why I decided to join industry, and I'm really excited to be here today to talk to you, Dede.
Perfect, thank you. Lynette?
My name's Lynette Johns, and I am currently the Director of Clinical and Scientific Affairs at Visionary Optics. And my career has varied through different types of modalities of practice. I started at NECO, and then I did my cornea and contact lens residency also at NECO. I joined the Boston Foundation for Sight, and I was the senior optometrist for 8 years there. And then industry took me away, and I was a consultant for Bausch and Lomb. And then at the same time, I was on faculty at New England College of Optometry. I went into research at Massachusetts Eye and Ear Infirmary and the Department of Ophthalmology at Harvard Medical School. And now I'm back in industry at Visionary Optics.
Well, and I've known both of these guys for a few years now, so it's been fun to watch them come up through the industry and just to watch them as I sit and grow, watch them grow as well.
And I do want to say, when I was doing my residency, almost 8 or 9 years ago, Lynette taught me just as much as some of my mentors. So I was really excited when I found out that she was going to be joining part of our company on the scleral lens side. Just to get to work with her every single day. I'm still learning so much, and she helps me with my patients. So it's just been an awesome time working together.
The flip side, Jackson's been my mentor working at with Euclid Vision Corporation, and his role in professional affairs and everything that I've been learning along the way, and getting a big refresher on orthokeratology. It's been a while since I've done it, so it's been great.
Well, and that's fantastic, and I get to work with both of your companies and get to consult on the product, so that's a lot of fun. So what I want to do is I just want to jump in and ask you guys some questions and kind of get your feel about some of the things that are going on in the industry and how you feel ortho-K and scleral lenses are going to hold for us in the future. So how do you feel that ortho-K is best utilized today? And do you feel that that's going to change in the future?
Yeah, so ortho-K is particularly in the Asian communities where I work primarily, it's very predominant as far as preference. Parents come in asking for ortho-K. They've heard from their neighbors, the school children, or sometimes the patient's classmates. They've been doing ortho-K, and so they realize, hey, my son Johnny, he's been on his devices for a long time. He's not only doing schoolwork, but then all his recreational activities are on his iPad or phone devices. So they go to their eye doctors and they notice, oh man, Johnny's prescription's gone up year after year, and now they've heard about these magical lenses called ortho-K that they can wear while they sleep, and they come in seeking these kind of treatments or therapies. And so it's a much easier sell when we talk about starting ortho-K in some certain offices like mine. That being said, I do a bit of travel throughout the U.S. Doing education, whether it's visiting schools or doctors' offices, and whenever the demographics are a little bit different, oftentimes ortho-K is not as well known. It almost seems like we're selling something like a scam. It's too magical. There's no way that they can see without glasses when they wake up. And that's the part that I think in the future, there's a lot of room to grow as far as just purely educating, starting from the US, but worldwide. Not enough people are familiar with this modality. And the fact that it not only allows, patients to see when they remove the lenses throughout the day, but the fact that the main goal is that we can slow down their eye growth, their excessive axial elongation. Those are the main reasons why we do it, is that we can minimize their impact on their eye health long term. So I think that's a very powerful sort of message that, hey, you get two benefits. Number one, I'm going to give you potentially a lifetime of better vision when you reach your adulthood. That's my number one reason. But on the other side, hey, your child's really going to love it, because whether they do any kind of swimming, sports, activities, they don't have to worry about glasses. They don't have to worry about soft lenses. They're going to be completely free of any kind of optical device. And that's the part that sometimes even sells the parents more than the fact that they're going to have less myopia. So it's just a little strange dynamic sometimes when you get into those conversations.
So how do you feel that changes the scope of practice when it comes to ortho-K and myopia management?
Yeah, so myopia management, I think we're all hearing it so often these days, especially post-pandemic. We've had so many webinars. Myopia is at the forefront of a lot of doctors as far as in their minds. So I think it's quickly becoming, if not already, the standard of care. No longer can a doctor see their child progressing by half diopter or a diopter and just feel comfortable. At least I would hope most doctors would not feel comfortable allowing that conversation to take place without at least educating that there are at least three main modalities in the US that can slow down myopia. And so with this in mind, I think that we have this ability to change the newer generation of doctors, where they're going through schooling and they're learning that, hey, this is actually standard of care now. We do need to educate the parents at the minimum and explain that, hey, we're not just going to prescribe new glasses to improve their blurred vision, but we actually have methods to slow down their worsening of myopia, to slow down their eye growth. And as this becomes truly standard of care worldwide, then I think the scope of practice, much more, many more ECPs and practitioners are going to be able to be comfortable in having these conversations with parents and making sure that the patients and the children can get the right treatment that they need. I know this is a specialty, lens podcast, but ultimately, I always feel like my goal is to demystify some of the specialty aspects of specialty lenses.
Right.
When I talk to students, especially with the way, speaking biasly for my company, Euclid, we try to simplify the fitting process. Almost anyone could get started. You really don't want to go in this blindly and not know anything about, cornea or, ortho-K at all. But at the same time, with the strength of manufacturers' consultation teams these days, almost anyone can be confident in sort of getting started. And then the companies can sort of walk the doctor through the process of fitting, how to do the follow-up appointments, what to look out for, how to troubleshoot. So because of this, I think the scope of practice, many of the new practitioners should include ortho-K in their toolbox when managing myopia.
So Lynette, from an educator standpoint, I know that you've been in the education side of the industry. How do you see that that's changing with orthokeratology and myopia management?
I think there's much more emphasis in just the profession that is very influential on students. I think from when I was a student, it was just myopia was separate from orthokeratology. I mean, you could treat myopia with orthokeratology, but it wasn't a management to slow myopia at the time. So I think that there's a lot of outside influence that's helping the students now to see the impact and the broader scope of what they can do to help their patients, because we're kind of the first line of defense of these pediatric patients, where they can be treated by, all of our colleagues in the profession.
Well, I know from a consultation standpoint, we get lots of questions about orthokeratology and myopia management and how to integrate it into the practices. So partnering with the companies and working with the companies that we work with, we really are seeing an increase in that. And I think that's where we're going to see some industry change. What do you think are the best tips for integrating orthokeratology into a practice?
I wouldn't really take credit for a lot of the things that happened at my practice. We've been doing Ortho-K for almost 2 decades, if not more. And so I think I've been able to piggyback on a lot of the sort of best practices that we've integrated. One of the things that I think is the most critical is to not jump into this with a very half-hearted attempt. You really need to make sure that the staff are all fully, at least knowledgeable to a degree where they can talk to patients comfortably about the topic. And then if it's a serious conversation that can proceed further, then lead them to dedicated 1 or 2 people on the staff that can really guide the conversation to a higher level. I like to have those either myopia counselors or myopia ambassadors. They really help me in the busy practice. We're seeing 20+ patients a day. They act as an extension of me. And I think one of the hurdles with myopia in terms of practitioners, that if you open up that conversation, it's an extra 10 to 15 minute minimum to your exam time, where your exam times can sometimes, they're only 15 minutes to begin with. So not only you're doing the exam, but then you may have to consult with them, the parents, for an extra 10 to 15 minutes just to answer questions on why myopia progression is not just okay with new glasses. So I think having your staff completely on board, integrating them, and having your champion to help you extend your conversations. And then in these modern Zoom times where we can just set up calls. I literally have a call in an hour with a parent that I spoke to this week, and we're just going to talk with mom and dad together at the same time. And that's where we're trying to convey the fact that, hey, this is not just glasses anymore. This is important enough where I'm willing to do a consultation with you afterwards. I know dad wasn't able to make the appointment, but I know you guys are both going to have questions. And so the parents can really see the importance and why it's critical to have a more lengthy conversation. And I'm willing to have that conversation with them. And I think by doing so, you can really build the practice in a more strong, powerful way. And they understand that, hey, this is going to be potentially 5 to 8 years of treatment or therapies with this child. It's not just prescribing some type of glasses or some type of contact lenses. So having that education on, with your staff, making sure that you yourself, if you're the ECP, that you're fully on board with the why. If you don't know why you're doing this, the patients are not going to really sort of believe it as well. So you really have to truly understand the reasons for doing what you're planning to do with myopia management. And that's the best way, I think, in terms of integrating something like Ortho-K specialty into your practice.
I agree, because I think when it comes to, introducing the topic to families and parents, you almost have to treat it as like a disease approach, having a separate appointment from your original exam, because it does take so much time. And the importance is, it's truly important for the child's future and their health. And you don't want to minimize that by rushing. So having that extra time or having the extension of yourself with the staff makes a huge difference. When I was at the optometry school, I had the students, but the exams were pretty long just in general, just for developing the basic skills. And we didn't want to shortchange that portion by introducing everything else at the same time. So having the families come back for more in-depth discussions made such a big difference in treating those children.
Right, and there's also a lot of pieces and papers and things that you can give to the parents and the kids to really help them understand it is disease prevention. Overall, it really is. Agreed. So I do want to switch gears a little bit since we like Jackson said, we are a specialty lens podcast. I really want to talk a little bit about the future of scleral lenses as well. And I know that we've been doing scleral lenses now for several years. So Lynette, do you think that there's a lot of change that's going to be made in scleral lenses in the future, or do you think that we've reached a plateau with these designs?
That's a tricky question because I'm on the fence. Sometimes when I'm seeing things kind of go stagnant, I'm like, oh, we've plateaued. But there's lots of opportunities, in my opinion, that maybe the designs aren't going to advance that much more. I mean, with profilometry, I think that's been really helpful in understanding shape and the nuances of taking the art and transitioning it to the science of the fitting. But in my opinion, I think really the influence that the scleral lenses can have in the future is drug delivery. I would like to see it's a perfect opportunity closed system for drug maintenance versus a drop that's transient. But and it's being done to certain levels for various conditions. For instance, when managing persistent epithelial defects, you do an extended wear of scleral lenses and you put preservative-free antibiotic in there for prophylaxis. But at the same time, we don't know how much antibiotic to put in there. We don't know if the concentration's enough. It's proving itself to be safe because there's less incidence of microbial keratitis in this setting. But I think there's an avenue for this to be pretty big in the contact lens future. Optics as well, I think, with the new introduction of wavefront guided optics, I think that's really exciting. I was lucky enough to work with it early on in early studies with wavefront guided. And the problem that we faced was brains take a while to catch up to optics. And so we would see great results on aberrometry maps. And the patient's like, meh, and then they would go back to their habitual lens and be like, but if you force them to push through it, 2 weeks later, they're like, my vision's so much better. And they go back to the habitual lens and they're like, oh, this is terrible. So it's interesting with neuroplasticity and different things like that I don't know, there's no way to rush it, but the optics are so much better with scleral lenses and there's so many things you can do.
Well, and we kind of see that same thing with multifocals as well. It's that adaptation process and the neuroadaptation that goes along with that. So I absolutely agree. It's the like you said, the brain doesn't catch up with the optics as quickly as we'd like to see that happen. Okay, I think this is a good time to take a break. We'll finish the conversation in part 2 with Lynette Johns and Jackson Lau in our next episode of Dede Talks.